recording. 5. Okay, sharp. Cameras roll. Have you watched the other podcast?
Yes.
Which one did you watch?
The one with Miles. I'm trying to remember what the
online dating
discussion was. Yes.
Okay. Cameras
She
rolling.
likes online dating.
And action.
Does it wear a lot?
What is happening, beautiful people? Ikabalam Kusipile, and welcome to another episode of Writings on the Wall podcast. And today I am not alone. On my left, Agama Brul.
Simpiwe Sitebe with an awkward intro. And then on my left, we also have someone else. Is she on the frame? Ne? Nicely.
Yeah, she's in the
Away.
Yes.
But we have Unati.
Unati B.
Unati B.
Oh, awkward intro.
No.
I don't have an intro because I'm not a YouTuber, but yeah. Unati B.
I mean, I think it's quite obvious because all of us really, we're not used to this lifestyle of, hey guys, welcome to my watch, you know?
Who is?
Yeah, I mean, you are though.
Unati B. What's the B?
You've been doing it
Botlingwe.
now.
Oh, is
My surname, yes.
Okay, Unati underscore B, guys.
No, Unati B.
Just Unati B.
3 E's.
Oh,
Yes.
B-E-E.
No, B. Come in that
B-E.
thing. It's not B. Come on.
No, guys, it's scrapping it.
Hey yo.
Touchy subject.
Yeah, let's not get into that right now. I was still asking. So you watched the episode 16 about online dating.
Yeah.
How do you find it?
Quite interesting.
Okay.
Quite interesting.
In what sense?
I think the conversation itself was interesting. Because I don't know, man, I feel like I got exposed to like online dating. Like when I was maybe even post varsity. So it's always interesting to like hear what people think about it and sort of like have like a proper conversation about it. Yeah.
Was that post-COVID also?
Me getting used to online dating.
Yeah.
It was post-COVID, but it's nothing I've taken like seriously.
Serious, sure.
So yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Because whenever people talk about like online dating, it's always like, yo, it sucks. People just want a good time.
Hey, yo.
So I've never like had people like have an actual conversation about it for so long.
What do you think about it? Very briefly.
About online dating.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you're saying you always hear people talk about how it's just a fun time.
I think also based on my experiences, like I've never taken it seriously. It was a date between me and a friend to say, let's try it out and let's see how it is.
Yeah.
And also I didn't want to be like, I don't know, like I've never tried it. It's like
and
ever
be
in my
that one
life.
person.
Yeah, and my experience has been that you do meet people on there who just want a good time.
And then move on.
But I think also it sort of allows people to have more conversations and be themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing to appreciate about it, because if you have to go on a date with someone, you become very like self-conscious like most of the time.
Yeah.
But with online dating, you can
There's
sort of
no
like
wall.
push out the first in-person encounter, have like a whole conversation, and then by the time you meet,
You've broken the ice.
you've broken the ice a bit,
Yeah.
and maybe formed a bit of a connection. So that's the one positive thing about it. But I do get to. I know someone who met her husband on Tinder. So there is people. I know someone else who recently got married who met someone,
Lovely.
person on Tinder. But yeah.
Yeah, man.
Personally, it's a no from me.
Appreciate it. So, it's a big day. It's a big day,
Sure.
because we, it's the first time we're having a lady on the podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Away. I love
It's
it.
the first time we're having a lady on the podcast,
Sure.
so it's definitely a big day. You sent me a text, I think it was last week,
Okay.
when you were telling me that Unati watched the podcast. And
Yeah.
there's something that's burning that you want to have a conversation about.
Yeah, it was like it was eating him.
It wasn't burning. I just said, number one, the podcast would do with a bit of estrogen.
Okay.
That's the first thing I said.
So
But then the other thing...
she's officially joining as a co-host.
And then I said that, no, the thing that I proposed to Simpio was a conversation I was having with a friend of mine.
Okay.
And I said it would be interesting to hear like what other people think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily like have to be part of like the conversation. But it would be quite interesting to hear other people's experiences. I think it's more based on experiences, because even when I had the discussion with my friend, it was more on reflecting, because this is my 4th year now working. So we're just like reflecting on the journey to say, how has it been like? What are the challenges? Where do you think the challenges have come from? And stuff like that. So yeah, I just said it would be nice to hear your guys' experiences and thoughts.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
I'm thinking. I'm interested to, because I mean, if you were the one suggesting the topic and you said you wanted estrogen, we've got the first point, and also you were the one having a conversation with your friends. So I think it would also just be nice to get what conversation you guys were having, because if you send to him, he's gonna misrepresent you.
Exactly.
So I think it would be nice just for you to give us a bit of a like an overview of what the conversation was about, because I don't know it. Of what it was about, and then we can just get into it, I think, from there.
Cool. We were basically, I think we summarized it. And then, maybe I can sort of like explain, but basically the conversation that we were having was around being the first person in your family to move from being previously disadvantaged to working in corporates.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in corporate, but like just
working.
Yeah, or moving into middle class, I guess. And sort of like the challenges that come with that. And not only my challenges from the financial side of things, but also like how you show up, the mistakes that you make, the sort of mentorship that you need, the struggles that you have to deal with as you try and navigate. Because one thing that I was talking to him about is to say, Guti, it also feels like your growth can be a bit slower than your peers.
Okay.
Because, for instance, where I work, I remember when we started, abanye abantu are going to be like, yeah, no, my dad like started teaching me about Excel spreadsheets and financial models when I was in high school.
You're like, hey.
And you're like, damn, I'm here to do my first one. So yeah, we're just basically having a conversation around those things.
Okay, no, that's cool. You got it. Yeah. Away. I think like
can you relate?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he can relate. I'm sure he can relate.
I mean, even if he can't relate, I think that's fine, because then it also brings in a different perspective.
Different perspective, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. No, I mean, I'm just thinking now, like, because we had a conversation about peers, right? The expectations and versus reality. So that's another episode we dropped. So people should check that one out. But there, we were just talking about like expectations. It ties in nicely, right? Because now I want to ask then the question. Okay, before that, let me explain the episode we had, which we were talking about. What is it? The expectations that your parents had, right? About you, and if you lived up to those expectations, cool. We also talked about my expectations that you had on yourself, and if you've lived up to those expectations.
Far from it.
Right? Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
supposed to be a millionaire by now.
you see. And then the third one that we chatted about, another point was my expectations that our peers and friends have of us, and are we living up? And I made the example, Yoguti, for me, I might expect to Usi, and I'll say to you, in fact, tomorrow we're flying to Cape Town, and I expect to Usi to be like, okay, I'll wear sharp. I've bought the tickets, we've booked, let's go. But in reality that he lives in, I might need to say, hey, in fact, next month, let's go to Cape Town. Yeah, but same thing, like you might say, hey, Unati works at Investec.
Why are you
and then
putting me out there?
It's a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical.
Okay, cool.
Hypothetically speaking, right?
Let's say
It's
Unati
like-
works at work.
Yes.
He works at work. No, but we made the example about myself. Good, if I work at a bank, then that's why I'm saying it ties in nicely, because now if I work at a bank and I go back home, I tell people I work at a bank. Right? That's why I'm saying it ties in nicely now.
Yeah.
And if you work at a bank as a first generation worker, a kaya, right? There's expectations that people have of you.
And also, Mutsu, you work at a bank.
Yeah.
Like, you
printing
work
money.
at a bank that no one goes to. That's also something else. Because where I come from, you say you work at a bank, you mean you are a teller.
Yes,
That
yeah,
people
but
can
that's
see
the
you.
expectation. That's the expectation.
And then you're like, no, guys, I don't
Actually,
interact with people.
I'm never there.
You can't
won't see me.
because so
So that's what I'm saying. Like that for me, it ties in nicely to conversation here today.
yes.
Uguti, you have that expectations of people. Which okay, if you work at a certain place, right? Whether it's finance, health, advisory, consultant, or whatnot, then there's expectations, right? But now, why I'm saying it ties in nicely is because today we're talking about that transitioning from ukuhlala ezilalini, ukuhlala emakhaya, ukuhlala eKasi, to now staying in Sandton, or working in Sandton. It's like, I mean, for me, I'll speak for myself, right? It was a shock.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I told you last episode, I grew up selling inkomo. I fetched the cows, and whatnot. All of a sudden, imagine I'm in Sandton, no cows, no nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, man, what's happening here? Posh every day.
The only bulls you deal with is Lamborghini.
Lamborghini bulls, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? So that for me was a shock. Hey, okay, this is, and what is it? It's a culture shock, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the term I want to use. It's a culture shock. Which you come into a place and you're like, hey man, okay, this is how things are actually happening and this is how things are done. So I think just to kick it off, right? I wanna ask both of, before actually, what's been your experience? I don't wanna like kick off. And then it's like, what's happening? These two are just chatting.
No. In my experience, I think to your point about, I think first generation, not success, I'll say.
Yeah.
First generation success in terms of like going from Sogola and into working and having access to Imoto and buying things and whatnot. I'm not the first. Perhaps I misunderstood the question. I'm not the first one because I have older siblings and they have had their share of, but I think in terms of, I do relate to an extent in terms of being exposed to a new environment where that hasn't been explored by family. For example, Oled didn't go to university. I then had to go to university. Then I came to Joburg to work here, working in health. Then having to buy your first car, then having to rent. You don't know if it's rent or what. So all those that financial literacy that someone would have learned at grade 9 from their dad is the one that I have to learn by myself and make those mistakes. So I 100% relate in that regard. I mean, I do have older siblings, but I think I still, as Mjita, as the first Mjita, there's a certain level of responsibility that you have in terms of decision making. But it's been easier in that I have people who have done it, like siblings who have done it before I. So the pressure might not be as significant as if you are the first one. Or figure 17 and they're like, now you're taking us out of the hood, my dog. So I think
you see, or just continue. Unat is the first one. Are you the first one, or this? Because now I'm thinking, like, for me, like in my generation, so all the grandkids ekhaya, I'm a grandkid also, so all the grandkids ekhaya, I'm the first one in the grandkids. And I mean, also it could just be because of age, right? They're all younger, so obviously I think just by that I'm gonna be the first one.
But you are. I think
that holds so much weight. The fact that you are the first one in this group or this generation, then at least it opens the doors and it shows them, oh, actually, it is possible. I always make the example, like for me, all of abantu basekhaya, like Oma and Omalume and whatever, they're all teachers. That generation, they're all teachers. Even ugogo, why you teach? And for me growing up, it's like, hey, okay. So basically, I'm also just gonna be utish because umamncane, umalume, umkhulu, ugogo, they're all teachers. So actually, I'm the first one to break out of that and be a BI analyst.
Hey, yo.
And for them, it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
Is that even possible? Yeah, but and manje, like my generation can see, okay, actually, Puti is a BI analyst. It means Nama can be something else. It doesn't mean manje has to just be utisha, because for them it's easy. Ngoba like uma utisha, ugogo utisha, umalum utisha, and everyone is else utisha. So by default, you end up just now falling into that one. Yeah, but.
And just on that point, I think for me, because I'm very like big on giving back and sharing my story with other people, anything sometimes it extends beyond
family. Yeah.
And sometimes it's your neighbors. Sometimes it's ingane, because there's a friend of mine. I finished matric like 8 years ago, and she always tells me, no, so that izopasa kahle, and then ihambe by CA.
Sure.
And for me,
because they saw you.
Yes, so and I'm like, oh, dude, too much pressure. I don't know if you want to be like me, but that's one thing I've realized. Sometimes it extends beyond your immediate family, and it's like you find yourself influencing other people and being sort of like a beacon of hope for abanye abantu. And so because I've done that reflection, something that has also been big is to say that as I learn, as I make mistakes, I need to share those mistakes. I need to share those learnings with people outside of my family.
Well, firstly, Usimpiwe doesn't feel like that. But
what do you mean?
You said in that episode, people should go through their own hardship. But anyway, I want to take it back a bit, right? I want to take it back a bit, just to give people also a bit of context into your story. So, just to confirm, you are the first person to break out of the cycle.
What do you mean?
No, because me and my sister studied the same thing around the same time.
Okay.
Yes.
But I'm the first CA in my family.
So wait, so you two are the first ones to.
Yeah, basically.
In your generation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're the first CAs.
Yeah.
So also you learned of like doing something. Guys, we need to talk about that one day. One day we need a whole conversation. But yeah, we're the first ones to say we wanted to become a chartered accountants.
Yeah.
And where does that come from? Because I mean, like Usimpiwe says, everyone is a teacher. Now you think I want to be a chemical engineer. Yeah. And then you get into to become a BI analyst. So for you, for you guys to, especially what's the age difference? Who's
3.
older?
She's older.
Yeah. So where does that come from? That thing of, I actually want to do something with my life. I want to, take a path, a thing that maybe not a lot of people are familiar with.
Yeah.
And achieve this level of success to end up at work.
Sure. It was not an informed decision.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think also that's something to touch on. Uguti, when you trying to do something, you make decisions based on what you know, which is not a lot. So it was.
No, but I mean, I think I think it's important to also highlight where we come from, because I think, like you say, Uguti, making a decision is hard, considering where we come from.
Yes.
Because then there's other people, say maybe Kuro, shots fired at Kuro.
Did you go to Kuro?
No one went to Kuro.
Okay, cool.
What was the name of your What was the name of your school?
Kuro was probably not even there when I was at school.
How old are you if you went to Kuro? Because Kuro is,
we don't even want to say the name of the schools we went to.
I see you again.
But I think it's also that, right? Where we come from, it's what is it called? I guess just the availability of information.
Yes.
To say it wasn't even there. I think now at least it's okay. Even at my school, they now have my career days or career expos, where then at least in Ghana, they go there, they ask, UKZN, UCT, so forth. Then at least kids now, they can get an idea of, there's actually engineering, there's BCom in finance, there's accounting. Oh, what is, because I mean, if you grow from where we come from, it's like you only know the basic teaching, police, nurse, maybe doctor, but
Lawyer.
even the lawyer, like doctor and lawyer are also very hard to get into,
attain.
So then it's easier to do these other things. Yeah, so I just, coming back to you.
On how I made the decision to become a CA. It was based on, so I was part of this other program.
Sure.
And there was a lady there from where I work now.
Yeah.
And she came and she's a CA. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. What is that? And then she started like just giving high level what her job at that moment was. And for me, because I've already...
Is she still there now?
No, she left even before I finished. Even before I finished at that university on the mountain.
Yep.
But so she came and she's a CA. And I'm like, what is that? That sounds quite interesting.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, cool. This is what I want to do. Like, I was like, I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
And then I also had a very good accounting teacher.
Okay.
So when I was in high school...
Shout out to them then.
When I was in high school, I believed I wanted to go into dramatic arts.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
BA.
yeah, because I was very extroverted, growing up, and I was always involved in a lot of things at school. And so I said, this is what I want to do again, because I didn't have all the information I needed to make a decision right.
Yeah.
And then she's like, no, don't do that to
you.
yourself. Yeah, because I was going to do science.
Yes.
And then now it was just a thing of, okay, do I now go into accounting or arts? So she was like, nope, you can't do that. And we had a whole discussion. And then she was a very good accounting teacher, and she made me fall in love with it. So it was those two people that made me say, I want to become a CA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you want to say something real quick? Okay, easy. I think one, right? There's Elon, a sense of like, I'm a mentors, I'll call them. Then we're there, you know, or at least offer some guidance. To say, okay, no, listen, man. There's obviously the lady from where you work. There's the accounting teacher, and I think both of them at least shed some light into how you shaped your life. But I think now, I'm getting a similar sense. You would see, it still wasn't a deep thinking. You would see, CA. Do I really love it? Do I want? But you just was like.
Also, it was just the thing of, I thought I'm a CA, I'm an auditor. Like I thought, I thought something else. Yeah, I didn't know about the other opportunities that exist when you do become a CA. And I was like, I want to work at Deloitte, guys.
And that's it.
So yeah, it wasn't well thought out. And we do make our decisions. Abanye abantu will make our decisions based on you. Usimpiwe ukhulele la, somebody ukhule now he has a car. He works in Sandton, he lives in a nice place. Yeah. And then they'll be like, no, I want to do what Simpiwe is doing. And that's something that I've seen also with me. And whenever someone comes and they're like, I want to be a CA, if they're still in high school, I'm like, why do you want to do it?
Yes.
Do you want to do it because I've gotten an opportunity to go abroad because I'm a CA? Do you want to do it because I have a car? Do you want to do it? Like, what about my story makes you want to become a CA? And what do you think you love or you would love about being a CA?
Interesting, yeah.
And so now you make this decision, go through university. Obviously, I think there you're starting to learn more about what's happening, like accounting and.
But also that one of the biggest shocks of my life was when I had to study law as part of because honestly, umuntu would walk in this thing like blank.
Yeah.
Just saying, I want to become. And also, I remember in high school, because I did physics, life sciences, and accounting as the 3 major subjects, and then maths. I used to say, I'm so tired of science.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go to varsity, and then I can focus on this thing. And then you get to varsity, but like, stats, nanti maths.
Yeah.
You also have to do law. You have to do EBM.
Yeah.
And then you just but I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
So that was also something else about
that lack of information.
varsity. That you learn as you go.
Yeah.
And what role is your sister playing in this journey? Because I mean, she's a bit ahead.
Yeah.
So what role is she playing in your journey to throughout varsity?
Sort of, I wouldn't say like it's like a mentorship thing, but it's like we going through this thing together.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the role that she played.
She got her things before you.
She took a longer program because of the varsity that she went to. So we went to like different varsities.
Okay.
But it was more, we are going through this thing together.
Yeah.
So we would share notes, would share study tips and stuff like that. Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. I mean, it's nice. It's nice to have, especially like a family member who you cannot. It's not just about sharing what the coursework is chowing, but you're sharing what this coursework is chowing. And I mean, you have those conversations. Hey, accounting 101, yenza kanje. So now you're done with varsity, ne? That's the academic hurdle. Then you graduate. Then you get into the workspace, and that's a different ball game because now you get exposed to a lot of other stuff. You get exposed to money, firstly. You get exposed to contracts that you have to sign. And you get exposed to now having to make quite a lot of big decisions. And I don't think in at that point, sharing notes can be that effective, especially if you guys are in different environments. Even if you were in the same environment, they can only offer a bit of guidance. So how is that? Because now your parents, I'm assuming, are not able to tell you, okay, when you go to work, the contract is going to look like this. This is what you should look out for. This is what you should decide on. Now you have to decide where you want to go and how you're going to go about getting to your articles and so on and so forth.
Yeah. You know what? I recently had a conversation with a colleague, and I think it basically like sums up the approach that I had to take when going into corporate. He said to me, we're just talking about not me, but like just in general. Uguti, I was telling him a story about something, and then he's like, we do understand that people come from a past that is not always ideal. Sometimes you grow up in a place where it's not easy to like grow and be yourself and excel. But at some point in your life, you have to make a decision to say that I'm an adult. I can make my own decisions. And if I make my own decisions, then I have to commit myself to whatever I want to do in life. So transitioning into corporate was so hectic because there's so many, it's like suddenly there's so many moving parts. You have to show up at work. There's showing up at work, there's working. Because you can work, but if people don't see that, then it won't amount to anything. So there's also that aspect. There's the other stuff that people do outside of work. You have to get involved in sports. You have to do this. You have to go to the gym. Like, there's a lot of things that you suddenly have to be like, oh my gosh.
This is happening.
Yeah, now I have to sort of like try and balance all these things. And then obviously there's the financial side of things. So in my case, although it was difficult, but I think trying to get as much info as possible helped a great deal. I remember where I work now, they told us there's a flat structure. A flat structure.
I don't
meaning
know.
that they don't believe in hierarchy.
Sure.
When it comes to our roles.
Okay.
So I said, so that means I can talk to the CEO. I can send him an email and he's going to respond. And they're like, that's what they said when I went to I said, really? So I could just send him.
Oh, that was during interviews.
During my interviews. So when I started, I was like, I need to put myself out there. And I said, this is a stupid decision, but I'm going to send an email to the CEO and have a conversation with him to say, hi, I've just joined. This is me. I wouldn't advise anyone to do it.
So the flat structure
he was very nice about it. But that one thing for me has, like, that's the same approach I've taken. Even with the challenges that I've faced, I always look at, okay, I'm struggling with this. And then there's probably someone at work who's not struggling with the same thing. I don't have to have a relationship with them. I can be like, hi, are you good? Can we please just have a discussion on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So it has not been easy, but I think on my side I've had to like push myself to say it's not easy, but you can't say, yo, mina nkosi yami ngakhula emlazi, there's nothing I can do about it. You have to put in the work, ask questions. Sometimes you will have like awkward conversations, but as long as you're trying, it's the one thing I learned.
I'm just like, I'm just thinking now, right? You obviously joining manje, like a big corporate. I think also even to you, Vichim, I just wanna get what you're thinking. Like imposter syndrome, right? And victim mindset. Because I mean, when we join these places, you can either be trapped, either have an imposter syndrome where it ends up paralyzing you to a point where you can't do your work. All right, you should. Then it gets into mental health and like and whatnot. But also there's like a victim mindset where it's like, I'm just unati. I'm just a black girl in this white male-dominated space. I can't do anything. Yeah, I think you've touched a bit on it. Good, you've actually broken out. On that. Good, so no, as in, even if we see, I'm gonna send an email. If you want us to meet up and we square up, then let's go. But if we want us Bambi coffee, sure, but Bambi coffee. So maybe to you guys, both of you, it's like. How did you navigate that? One, I think the important was obviously imposter syndrome, coming into a space. Because obviously, and I think that's another thing with corporate. I mean, not corporate, but just working. Uguti, when you come in, whatever role you take, there was probably someone there already fulfilling that role, So, like, I know I started a job in May, and there was a guy who left. There and I could have easily fell with trap, imposter syndrome
of chasing him,
and being like, but I think also now it's easier because I don't even know the person, so you don't even fall into that trap. Or a victim mindset, so you're like, I'm just too simpy where I don't know anything, and then you again you also just fall into it, and then it limits what you're capable of and your abilities.
I think it's different for my industry because I'm in health. In health, there's no time to feel like an imposter. Unfortunately, because like I mean, there's 2 years of there's at least 2 years of clinical training. In terms of you doing clinicals, the last 2 years, where the second last one you're doing half days. You go to work and you see patients alone. But you're working half days, and then in final year, you're doing full days of work. You go to work get to work 7:30 or 8, and you leave at 3:30 or 4.
Sure.
And no one is there to supervise you sometimes. Sometimes you are the one running a whole department. So in terms of that, it's not as intense in terms of what you can do. However, there is always a feeling of, because now when I started working, when I came to Joburg, it's not just about me now working again, right? It's about me moving to a new city and having to get used to what's happening here, where people are not speaking Xhosa. People are not speaking Afrikaans that I was learning in Cape Town. Now suddenly there's a hectic language barrier that's there. Patients don't want to speak English. And I thought bazofuna ukukhuluma abakhulumi. Bayaboa, Setswana, Pedi. And I'm like, I don't know what the heck is happening here. So there was that. And then when I was in ComServe, I was paid with another ComServe physio. There was a lot of ComServes. I think only one person was permanent in the department. And she was ComServe the year before. So everyone was new. I didn't really feel like an imposter. I did feel the pressure though of, okay, now if I drop a patient, I'm getting sued. So that was a big responsibility. Firstly, first day of work, I'm at work. And then secondly, the pressure of, if I fail here, there's no, you're gonna get 50%. If I fail here,
and you get it up.
No, here if you fail, you're getting a lawsuit.
and it's health. So
exactly, and you're not protected, and it just depends on someone else's experience. If someone feels like so and so didn't treat me this way, blah blah, I feel like I'm complicated because of that, then you're in trouble. So I think in that regard, it wasn't imposter syndrome, but there was a lot of, you could feel the responsibility the moment you walk into the department. Now patients are looking at you, and you understand you being in ComServe doesn't mean that the service stopped. So there was someone who was working, like I said, until the last day of December, and they were competent. They knew the systems, they knew the patient, they knew everything. Now you come in on the 2nd of January, and patients are still coming in to book, and they want an appointment, and they want to be seen.
But now you don't know anything.
You don't know anything. So it wasn't really impossible. It was just a thing of you need to get up to speed as much as possible. And just that pressure. In terms of the victim mindset, did I have victim mindset? Nah, but I don't think I had time, to be honest.
Do you guys feel like it's different for men and women?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel like women succumb more to imposter syndrome and
women? I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Why?
I mean, you.
Why do you think so?
You need to answer that. What do you mean?
Why do you think so? No, because
no, I mean, I think for me, it's like, because I mean, also, right, I came from engineering and now I'm in finance. So obviously I did feel a bit of like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. You know? And obviously there's some truth in that. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, but then I had to obviously upskill myself and just like learn all the finance lingo and the financial lingo and the whatnot, the systems. And the one I'm quite confident now. I mean, 4 years in, you know, I think the people look at me like, hey, yo, big dog. You know, so but I mean, back to your question. I mean, I still want you to like answer that imposter syndrome and victim mindset. But I think they do, man. Ladies, I feel like they do go through so much at the work, just because of the management. You know, I mean, I think now it's a bit chilled. Also, like that thing of flat structure. I think that's a new idea they're trying to push. You would know we all equal. You know, because even the way I work, you know, they're scraped away with offices and whatnot. They're trying to like make sure that everyone is sitting like together, or like everyone. If you CEO, you find them sitting next to a good desk, you know, because no one has an office thing where it's like, hey, that is someone's so and so's office. So every time you try to avoid going there because they're gonna see you and be like, look at that girl's not working even, you know. But I do feel like ladies go through so much because one, I mean, like black females, you know, black ladies coming into the world, because one, you're black, and two, you like a girl, and there's so many pressures or not pressures but oppressors, right?
I think also the perception.
That's
been my experience, Uguti, as a black female. Kwispace ngikusona, my credentials are not valued as much as those of my peers. So if I come in and I'm like, guys, I'm a CA, they're like, cool, I guess. And then someone else comes and they're like, I'm a CA, and they're like, oh my gosh, you must be smart. So I think also there's some external influence, if I may, that makes it difficult to sort of break free from imposter syndrome.
I think another, sorry, Netuk, I want to also just highlight this thing of Uti, like you said, right? Like if you come in and say you're a CA, they're like, okay, away. But I think also there's that idea of, if you come in, let's say I come in and you come in, they're gonna people automatically think that for you to become a CA, it was like a difficult thing to do as a black female. But let's say if I come in, or like a white person comes in, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, it was expected. You know, like, oh well, you're a CA, sure. You know, because the idea is like, for them it comes easy.
It comes natural.
Yeah, it comes natural.
But also they assume more competence.
Yes, that's what I'm going like. That's what I'm saying. Like, for them it's assumed that it comes easy because they're more smart and competent, and they, you know. But for you, they're like, tell me, how did you get here? HR calls you. Like, come
and then you're on posters there.
Exactly.
Like, oh my gosh, guys.
That's what I'm
for
saying.
For Youth Month, we are telling Unau's story.
Yeah, you see, young talent teams, they call you. Like, I know, come, we want to hear your story. Come.
You want to hear the struggle.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah.
And for me, I view it differently.
Sure.
I think also it's how I grew up. Like, I've always been like a weirdo in a sense. Like, I've always said that I don't want to fit in.
Yeah.
And because of that, I had to define myself to say this is who I am.
Okay.
And no one is going to tell me otherwise. I think that's I do struggle with the imposter syndrome. I'm not going to lie. But when I do, I tell myself to snap out of it because I'm like, you are this hard. You did all of that. You made it. So the whole thing of Uguti was more difficult for me. To me, shows that I'm more capable than people want to acknowledge at times. Because if I could do it, because I always say, and I've said this to some of my friends, Uguti, if you could make it with no support, and you end up working in the same place as someone who had a lot of support,
trust funds and whatever,
like mentorship, like. Then there's something in you that is very much powerful, and that's sort of the idea of myself that I have to say, if I could make it, then it means that I'm quite dope.
Facts.
And so even at work, when someone tries to discredit me, that's the approach I come in with. I don't believe in fighting, but I'm very quick to correct abantu, like even when someone makes a joke, because that's also something that you know, Guti, there's already certain perceptions about you. So there's certain jokes I can't afford to laugh at, and there's certain jokes that I just don't take as jokes.
And you call them out. You're like, hey, yo, pause.
Immediately, and it happened not too long ago, but it wasn't with me. Well, this person has tried it with me, where we were working on a Friday trying to get some deals over the line, and then this guy comes and he's like, you guys are not working. Well, he targeted someone specific. He's like, when I saw and so you're not working, and I'm always having to do your work. And then people laughed. It was me and like 3 other black women. And I was working.
Was this like black on black violence? Or?
No, the other person is not black.
Black on black crime.
Black on black crime. On a sky rise, my dog.
But the other person is not black, and this is why. So I said, so they laughed, and I was busy doing something, and then they laughed, and then I turned and I was like, that's not funny. And then they're like, oh, but I said it in Zulu. That's, I said this, Leon. And then the guy was about to walk out, and he's like, what did you say? And then I'm like, no, but that was not funny. You can't say that because this person is very hardworking. And you are saying this out loud in front of everyone. And it's not to say that you should go around picking fights with people, but I think you also need to manage that because, you know, Guti, sometimes I feel insecure because of the perception that people have of me. I must control that. So even when someone comes to me, there's someone who said to me, what are you doing? I'm like, working. And he's like, no, you're not working. And I said, no, you haven't been sitting here. And so it's something that I like make sure to correct also, because I'm like, if I allow this perception to grow and to go unattended to, then it's going to become a thing, and it's going to add to that feeling of I'm not good enough.
I think to add, I think to that point, an element I think also contributes to maybe women succumbing more to imposter syndrome is what you're mentioning, is that the systems around don't accommodate for them to excel. So if you're getting into a workspace, the system is not designed for you to flourish. And so if you get into a room and you already know, Guti, I'm probably 10 steps behind, everything that you do might not feel like enough. For you to get the recognition that Usimpiwe would be able to get, you have to put in 20 steps. And for Abanya Bandu, unfortunately, or for a lot of people, they don't have that awareness to say, I'm getting into a space that is not accommodating to me, because Angisha Varsity, they tell us, oh guys, the workspace, the market, blah, blah, you guys are gonna be great. So when you get into work and you realize, nah, bro, there's actually assholes here. And nobody here cares to mentor me or to take me under their wing. And the ones that are taking me under their wing, they're actually setting me up for failure, because Umdu is your mentor, but they're going to go out and expose you in public. That actually, you know what, I was helping her with that email. So I think the unfortunate part is that people aren't aware. Getting into the workspace, the system is not designed to favor you. And because of this conversation that we have about equality and equity and whatnot, okay, it's as if, you know, if you're black, there is a position you're gonna get. Yes, you get into this corporate company, but don't expect the same treatment that Umak is gonna get, because in as much as you're there, Umak is already 5 steps ahead of you just by the fact that Umak is Umak. And when you get in with that being naive and I know at least kune BEE, you know, there's this equity that's going to speak for me there. It doesn't speak for you. In fact, it might speak against you, because even if you have the credentials to get into that workspace, people look at you and say, you probably just got in because you're a woman and we need to meet quota. Remember, what are we talking about
yesterday?
Oh yeah, actually, never mind.
And you know what? I think when I started in corporate, I was very naive in that regard, because I remember my first encounter with a white manager. It was very weird, and I was like, what is happening? And this is not to make this about race, but it's a reality of what some of us have to sort of like go through. Because I remember I was like so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna work. And that I said in grade 11 I wanted to work at. And I remember like the encounters like hectic, and having to navigate through that without thinking, I think at a high level, this is what's happening right now. People don't expect you to be like this. People expect, because they would ask, oh, you here? Oh, it's because you're part of the bursary program. And then having to correct them. And I remember also...
And that takes away from your ability.
And that's why, and that's how I learned to speak up. And that's how I learned to correct people, because I was like, no, if I laugh when you say that, if I smile, if I let it slide, then I'm not fixing the problem. And I remember with this other guy as well, when we had to work on a deal together. And then he's like, oh, I'm working with you. And I'm like, yeah. You are going to be... I'm like, yeah, I know you are going to be working with me. And then he's like, okay, so when we get to the client, don't say anything. I said, why? And I said, why? And he's like, no, I'll do the talking. And I said, but I have questions and I have things that I want to discuss with the client. And then that's when he opened up, because he was like, oh, you actually prepared for this meeting. And then I said, no, do you want to and then I was like, do you want to hear my story about how I got here? Because I feel like there's this assumption that you've made, I'm here because I'm black.
Because of a
and
bursary.
I'm here because I was part of the bursary program. I said, no, if you're part of the bursary program here, you're not guaranteed to work here. You have to go through. There's 600 people who applied, and there's only 18 of us who made it in. So you have to understand that I went through that process. So that's, for me, that's how I've learned to speak up, because I was like, oh snap. At first when it happened, I was like, never mind. But then I was like, okay, cool.
Actually, it might be coming more and more. I mean, I think I want to also just bring it back, right? Because I mean, now we're talking about in the office space and whatnot, and it's easy. Because I mean, it's not easy, but it's like an office, there's rules in place. And then if you are better, you tell them we are better. You know? But I want to bring it back and talk about family. To say, okay, emakaya, how do you navigate that? Because I mean, like I'm saying, if you manage a kick better, you can tell them uyang better. You know? But emakhaya, kunomsebenzi ekhaya, omalume, ogogo, auntie, and whoever, they pull up, they look at you. Hey, when usaqoba mazamba ngoba uyi-CA manje. You know those things. Hey, usi manje usenza yabona, because manje usesebenza esentini. You know those things like that. So I mean, I think it also still ties in nicely to the transitioning from where we come from to middle class. Like how that experience is. I mean, even for you, Vichima, dog. For me, I'll speak for myself real quick. You know, I mean, for me, it's quite chilled. You know, it's quite chilled. I also think, because I think we might have females and males might have actually different experiences to how we've navigated that. But I think for me, because it's actually quite a small family, it's just my mom and my sister. Other than that, there's no one else. You know. But if you're a big family, or you there's relatives and or auntie and or whoever, then you're a CA or you whatever in sensing in wherever you're at. Then how do you navigate? Because like I said, right, we corporate and my office and where we work, it's easy. But if umuntu ekubhedela, you tell them. If bengezwa, you take them to HR or you take them to wherever. But yeah.
Hey, go.
I think
what?
I'm
saying human resources. I think it manifests differently.
Okay.
And it's not, for me, it's not about awusafuna lento.
Yeah.
Mhlambe awusafuna ulanda inkomo manje because
Yeah,
usebenza ebhangeni. I think it's we spoke about assumed this assumed competence emsebenzini, or assumed incompetence.
Yeah.
You can do that or you can't do that. I think maybe the major challenge when you think about being the first generation success is the assumption that you are going to get everyone out of the hood.
Yeah.
Right. And it almost feels very automatic. The moment you graduate, you go to a Josie and you get a job, then you are ready to get everyone out, right?
You get a job, you work in cents, and you have money.
100%.
So you get all my lume asking you for my 3,000 every month.
That's what I'm saying. And some of the conversations that you wouldn't naturally be part or previously be part of, as just I think vice versa, but even for women, but as the conversations you wouldn't be part of, suddenly now you're getting involved in, like if it was clearly up and we used to talk about other stuff, suddenly, mshana. Hey.
Or like back home, ne?
Yeah. Hey, mchana because they expect you to offer the hand. And when you don't offer that hand because maybe you just don't have the means to, then it drives a wedge between you and the family member. Sometimes it's not even, they don't ask for it. They just assume that if they bring this thing up, you are going to provide a solution. So I think that's the first issue, is that assumption to you're going to get us out of the hood. The second one is when it's direct now, when they call you, hit you up, like, yo, this happened, umnyango phukile.
Yeah.
Or sifuna ufake gate. You know? Suddenly now people are getting creative in terms of, yes, disturb your ras. Yeah, ras. See a podcast up. You have this thing about they hit you up, they're getting creative, unati been yabona la gate besifuna uyifaka pha sizayifaka kanje nakanje. And so
saki garage.
Exactly. What spaces pie back? I think if singenza 2 room phansi sabrandisa izawubuyela imali ungapeniki wena. People are getting business ideas now because there's an assumption that your workspace is going to be funding those businesses, and they don't understand now when Haibo, what do you mean? Apply and this
with whose money, man? What's happening?
And you mentioned something about his CV, or was it you?
The drunk uncles. I was talking about CV.
Yeah, exactly. The one I give you is CV, and like I think that really is that really.
What can I do?
So when I'm not in management,
sure.
And I think those assumptions really do drive. Or break, can break a family. Because if you leave or uncle, if your siblings, for example, are unemployed back at home, and you get into the workspace, there's an assumption from the parents and even from them that Unati first is going to give us a monthly allowance, and secondly, we will never go hungry in the house, and you're going to be getting us a job. And if you don't do that, the next level is when you start buying cars. You're in Joburg. Joburg not having a car is very difficult.
You can't go anywhere.
You have to buy a car. A car is not a cheap thing, and that's an extra added level of expectation. When you have a car, you are richer. The more things you acquire, the richer you are. But it's actually the other side where the more things you acquire,
you have less disposable income.
Exactly. You are losing money. If I have to buy a car, then I have to pay for the car, insurance, and for petrol. All that cash that I would have had as disposable is now going into something. If I was to get a property, I have to pay rent or buy into a bond, a rate and stuff. So the perception that the more things you have, the more successful you are, I think is where the disconnect becomes, and that's the challenging part, having to address that, to say, Andina mal. Who was I speaking to recently to say, when parents used, I think with Wise, I was like, when parents used to say, pay day, Andina mali, I never understood what they meant, and now I'm like, I can see.
You're speaking,
can see, and having platforms like this, like now you have a podcast and stuff, there's an assumption that you have all this guap, and all this money,
you can podcast for days.
But
what do you think about? And also, like, on top of that, how do you navigate that? If it's something you've been through, how do you manage expectations? Because
I hate that phrase.
That's the lingo. That's the lingo in corporate.
Managing expectations.
That's the lingo in corporate. Manage scope.
Oh my
We
gosh.
need to manage scope, guys.
But
Many scope.
Yeah, that's the lingo, the corporate lingo.
geez, I think the one thing I had to do was to allow myself to learn from my white counterparts,
Okay.
because I think they are much better at setting our boundaries than we
Yes.
are. And one of the people that I had that discussion with was my white therapist, older woman. And I said to her, there's something called black tax.
Yeah.
And
She didn't know that.
and she no, because she
knew.
does have black
Yeah.
clients.
Okay. Fair.
She's like, so I said, there's something called the black tax.
Yeah.
How do I deal with it from, I guess, the psychological side
Yes.
of izinto?
Yeah.
And she said to me, you need to put boundaries in place. And
Yeah.
I said, yo,
Like at
Boundaries.
work, it's easy.
It
right?
easy.
That's what I'm saying. Like to
but,
put boundaries at work,
but
it's easy.
putting boundaries in place with your family
Exactly.
is a completely different story.
Yeah.
So she said to me, you would need to put boundaries in place. You need to learn how to say no, because
Yeah.
if you don't say no, you will drown in debt.
Yeah.
Trying to do everything that your family
Be a
wants you to do.
savior.
Can I ask? I'm just getting some nuggets as well. How do you? Because I mean, saying no, like I said, has implications, right?
Yeah.
You run the risk of losing the family, and I mean, we're always taught that family is number one, and
Yeah.
then this money and whatnot. They secondary to family. So, how do you find the balance between making them understand, Kuti, me saying no? Okay, maybe you don't have to explain what me saying no is for your own benefit, but how do you still maintain the relationship and not end up at the end of it where you have all these savings,
Yeah.
but you have nothing? You have
family,
all these
no
savings,
think-
but the family relationships are all broken.
I think it's important to know, Guti, you have your family, but you're also trying to build your own life.
Yeah.
And with that, it's not to say, Guti, you don't give your family anything. That is
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
But the one thing that my therapist said to me was,
Sorry.
you.
Therapy.
Age, friends to age.
I've been telling you about therapy, but yes.
But one thing she said was, Uguti, you need to sit down with your finances and say, this is how much I can afford
Yeah.
to help out with at home.
Okay.
And communicate that. Uguti, guys, you don't have to always over-explain yourself, but you
Yeah.
can say, guys, like explain, Uguti, just because I have a car doesn't mean that I got a car just so you guys could say, oh my gosh, she's working now.
Yeah.
But I actually needed it because I'm 17. I have to travel. I have to
Yeah.
do all these things. And with having a car comes more costs. So
Yep.
I need money to service this car. So having those discussions with them to try and sort of like make them explain and say, Uguti, for instance, I can't help with money after the 15th
Yeah.
because then I'm running low on cash.
Yeah.
And when I say that I can help out with money, this is the maximum I can do.
Yes.
So that's the one thing I had to sort of try and I guess also put in place to
Yeah.
say, Uguti, if I have to help out, like in my case, like I have a younger brother and a niece.
Yeah.
Ukuthi maybe funi airtime, they need to know ukuthi you can't just come ngomhla
And
15
yeah.
ukuthi ufuni airtime, because just because I have lo msebenzi it doesn't mean that I always have money.
Yeah,
So the thing that I had to learn is to put healthy boundaries in place,
Yeah.
to say I will help out, but I need to sit with my finances and say,
Yeah.
this is the maximum I can do,
yeah.
before I struggle. This is the maximum I can do before I run out of money for petrol. And Guinea, they don't have to know how much you earn. That's also
Yeah,
something she said. She
yeah.
said they don't have to know that you get paid this much, because when you do tell them, to them it sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you're the first person Guinea to earn this much, it sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't have to go and say, guys, this is how much I make, but you have to say, guys, as much as I make le mal, but I have these responsibilities. At some point I was
Yeah.
studying and I said, guys, I'm studying and it's expensive. Ukuthi
Yeah.
ngiyafunda, because I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So just know, Guti, my ability to help out is not unlimited.
Yeah.
Money is a limited resource to me. And also, although I can help out, I cannot help out. You can't come to me on Tuesday utufuna imali yokulungisa iwindi on Wednesday. It doesn't work like that. So that's how. So when you've had that conversation, it becomes easier to say, I can't help. And that's the end of the discussion.
You know what I also think about just how, if you want to talk about how much you're getting paid, I think the best thing, if you really want to disclose, I think it's best to disclose how much you get after all the expenses are gone. So if you can cover, if you do your house, you rent, blah blah blah, you say at the end, mina ngikhola nje 1,000.
Yeah.
And I just have and 1,000 I must give you, and I must also be able to do my own thing. And I think if you really want to have the conversation, it gives them perspective. Because if you give them gross or net, you're messing with their minds, because they're gonna hold on to that. You can even give them the money and give them expenses, but they won't make sense. They'll say at the end of the day,
this is how much you get.
1 million.
Can't you just at least?
So it million, yes, but at the end, but no 1,000, they're gonna hold on to 1 million. But if you can say, 1,000, you know, and that's all I have. Honestly, I can give you half. Now I also have to be able to survive, because everything else goes into my expenses.
Yeah.
You wanna say something?
No, I was gonna introduce a different thing.
Yeah. No, I also wanted to introduce it.
No, but can I just say something on just around putting boundaries in place?
Okay.
I think there's a book I read. It's called The Psychology of Money. And the first chapter says no one is crazy.
Yeah.
And it basically says that whatever decisions we make when it comes to finances are not because we're crazy.
Okay.
So when your family expects something from you, because when are you the first one to work at bank when no one sees you, that's because of the experiences.
Their experiences.
Yeah, to them it sounds so big because no one has done it. And so if you're doing this big job, then you must be making a lot of money. And so that's why it's important to have that discussion in a way that is respectful, and to say that, guys, I do know what you don't understand where I'm coming from, but it's because of how you've experienced the world so far.
Hey, but now that sounds like
What?
Like you're telling them.
No, but that's not something there. You don't tell them that, but that's the approach you have.
Sure.
You don't just go there and you find like kaya and
No one can say it.
yeah, but you have to understand. No, you don't go to your family and be like, yeah, I mean, guys, no, you don't do that. But that's the approach that you use.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a game changer to some extent. Even dealing with, like, when it comes to dealing with people, assuming people don't do things because they're crazy. Yeah. Sometimes it's because of how the world has treated them, how they view the world, their experiences. And so you have to, when having or engaging in conversation with people, make provision for that. So when you're trying to explain yourself, have that to say, I know, Uguti, this is why they have such high expectations of me. Mm-hmm. And I do wish, Uguti, I could do everything that they want me to do, but I can't. So I need to engage with them at a level that will allow me and them to meet each other halfway and get an understanding.
That's something that I wanted to touch on was, I think I spoke about it also briefly then, about the relationship we have with money. Yeah. And I think when you're introducing this thing of the psychology of money, it's important to really understand, Uguti, it's deeper than we can imagine. Yeah. So the perception, which is why I was saying, if you're going to be talking about salaries, don't mention big numbers because those big numbers, when we hear them or when they hear them, it doesn't sound the same as we understand it. So I think if we can really understand the psychology, because look at the past generations and our history, we don't have a relationship with money. We don't understand money. White people, 100% they do. They get taught about money properly. I don't even want to do maths lit because where they get taught what's this? Maths lit, literacy, money, and what financial literacy. You know, and understanding Guti, we don't have that relationship, then allows us to then take a step back and say, why is it that they expect so much from me? But I understand, okay, what can I do to at least help them uplift? But also that comes with a different level where you read a book about, the psychology of money. Now you are the person who is working and you are encountering, you go from zero at university and you get this big amount of money in your bank account, what's the first step? Where do you go from there? Because now you have to manage a huge chunk of cash.
Yeah.
You know, when you don't even have a relationship with it, it's like you wake up one day and there's someone laying next to you with a ring on their finger. They say, I'm your husband or I'm your wife.
Hectic.
What do you do with that? You haven't had time to learn about them, to
Yeah.
know them.
Like, what's
Now
happening?
they're right next to
I
you.
think for people who are still in varsity, I would say start
The
the
education.
conversation. And starts now learning and like trying to be as informed as possible.
How was your experience with
Yeah,
that?
because, but also my experience was slightly different because I'm in accounting. As much as accounting, I don't want to create a perception wrong. Or we learn about budgets and stuff like that. We learn more about corporates, and there is some aspect where you learn about like individuals. But I had the basics. I knew how to drop a budget. I knew there's something called a budget. And Uguti budget helps you to see in future.
Yes.
So before I got my first salary, I sat down, opened an Excel spreadsheet because apparently that's what bankers do. Use Excel spreadsheets for everything.
Yeah.
But I sat down and I said, this is how much they said they're going to give me.
Yeah.
This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I want to do. You create a list. You're like, I want to do this. And then you plug it in. Good budget doesn't have to be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be on a piece of paper. My flatmate at the time mine's on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And that helps you. And this is not something oyenza ngomhlaka 24 hola ngomhlaka 25. The moment you sign your contract and they tell you Uguti, this is how much you're going to be earning.
Yeah.
You start with that exercise to say, okay, cool. This is how much I'm going to be getting and this is what I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Can I afford to do these things?
Yeah.
And the certain things that you need to prioritize. You have your family, you have your own life.
Yeah.
You don't want your kids to be like you. That's one thing I had to say to myself. I said, my kids can't go through the same struggles as me. I mean, I'm a trust fund babies.
Yeah. And
So that means, although I don't know where I stand with money, I don't have a proper relationship with money, I need to be intentional about it. I need to be intentional about understanding the type of person that I am when it comes to dealing with money. So sitting down and saying, this is what I need to do. Am I going to be able to do it? I think that helps you, like, in terms of planning for the future. And it helps in terms of managing my expectations also with the people around you to say, okay, cool. This is what I can afford to do. So, also, YouTube has made it so easy now but guys, before you listen to people on YouTube, just make sure they know what they're talking about, because
But they can't know.
I get that, but like I think it's better to check my credentials on and also, even when I read books about money, although I studied accounting, and I still do listen to my podcasts about money. And I think the most important thing, again, to remember, Uguti, the person oknigezi advice is giving you from their standpoint. So when they say you must save 30%, it's what they can afford. It's good to save. So when you sit down with your own budget, you know how much you can expect. I mean, you can afford to save because of all the responsibilities that you have. So read, listen to other people, learn from other people, ask other people. Because anything that I had to learn was like, when it comes to salary negotiations, a colleague of mine said, Tina, as black people, we just want to survive. Abelungu want to be wealthy. So how do I now like become better? And that's through my conversations to say, guys, I want to invest. Where do I start? I want to do this. Where do I start? But read books, budgets, and learn from other people.
I wanna take a different turn, right? From money and whatnot, because I mean now, like, I think all of us are quite like in the group of middle class, right? We all like in there. I wanna chat about like the mental health that comes with coming from the space, say disadvantaged, you may call it, coming from there and now being in middle class, right? I mean, I think my definitions are weird and they change every day.
Of what?
What middle class is.
Google that.
But I want to talk about that. now being middle class, what mental gymnastics did you have to do? You know, because I mean, there's a quote. Say that favorite quote of yours, that privilege something. So Unati knows it.
Which one?
That depression is privilege. Say that code, man. Say that code. Unat will cancel you on the spot.
Yeah, what you saying is my quote?
It's his favorite quote. Favorite
What is the
quote.
quote?
Say the quote.
It's not my favorite quote. It's just it's something that I had come across, right? Which is the idea. I mean, you're gonna have me and you're throwing me under the bus. So we're having like I said yesterday, we were having a conversation about men's mental health, right? And then we ended up touching on depression. And I was saying there's this school of thought, or like I've heard this thing before that says depression is a disease for the privileged, which is the idea that if you have if you're in the middle class where you have access to water, clean water, electricity, food, and just the basics, the basic stuff that we need to survive, then you have too much time and you end up now thinking, maybe I'm depressed. And so there's a school of thought that
So it's not.
Maybe it's labeling it, guys.
It's not.
I've heard something similar, but I think it's when you learn about these things and you know there's something called depression.
Yeah,
It's easy to say, let me not put it like that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It sounds very.
Don't apologize. It's your thought.
No. It's easier to sort of attach the label to yourself if you know what it is. But I do think there are people who struggle with it.
Yeah. I want to talk about those struggles.
And this is something I observed even like growing up. Moody.
Yeah.
And kuzothiwa moody because mood is the only word we know to describe umuntu ongahleki mangaba ama jokes, to describe umuntu ohlala ingane inenye into. So I think one thing, I think sometimes it's ukuthi abanye abantu don't have a label for it.
Yeah.
No. So I think just to bring a bit more clarity also on this, and it was my stance even yesterday to say the clinical depression is real, right?
Yeah.
Anxiety disorder is real.
Yeah.
And like all the things, they all very real, right? And there's people that struggle with them, whether they can identify or label them or not. It's very real. So what I was saying was, I'm concerned with just how easily we throw around the label of depression. Now, every single emotion we feel that we can't find another word to, we throw it depression. If I'm sad or I'm having a tough day, today I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm struggling with depression. Or for a week, you're feeling down because your body you're just not maybe eating the right diet. Suddenly it's depression. So it was just the thing of, and I think maybe that's what that school of thought is coming from, to say we have way too much time that we end up now labeling or trying to bring these labels closer to us to say, depression na ingale. Okay, when you read up the description of clinical depression, I feel like I can identify with this part, then you bring it to you. Okay, anxiety disorder, I feel like I bring it and then bring it to you. But if we were to look at how many people actually qualify to be on medication or have clinical depression as a diagnosis, there probably isn't that many, as many as we claim or we think they are based on how it's thrown around. So that's where that thing of to say depression is a disease for the privilege is coming from, to say
I get that.
we just have too much time
but
now.
Also, we should normalize not using Google to diagnose ourselves.
Go
see doctor.
Can I tell you one thing? Sorry. There we lose. I'm in health. Patients come to me and they tell me what the diagnosis is. They tell me and they say, no, sciatica. Who told you? Who told you?
But I think it's also like, I mean, some people don't have that privilege.
Of what?
To go to a doctor, or just woke up and go to a physio, or just wake up and go to a therapist. You know, sometimes you want to go to a therapist, but they tell you the only available time is in July or August. And that time when we are cooler. You know?
But Abanyamanda are just bored. And this is going to sound, it's probably going to touch people the wrong way, but Abanyamanda are just bored.
Then like if it's like that, then you don't even need to go to the doctor. But like for serious people,
I get that. But I think, man, because I get Lento show. I think it's also important to if you find yourself in a situation where you're like, I might be depressed.
Yeah.
Reflect and say, what has changed in my life?
Yeah.
And because I know what depression is, what are the ways that I can try and like, I don't know, but like uplift.
Yeah.
Even if it's like talking to a friend and saying, I think I'm depressed, or I don't know, but like instead of sitting and saying, yeah, I mean, maybe try and I don't know,
introspect. But I wanna ask though, like, do you guys feel like then my mental health issues are different for someone who middle class versus for someone who's lalin or someone who's like from still in like a disadvantaged neighborhood? Do you feel like those two people go through different mental health?
Do we feel like the middle class exposes us to a lot more?
Yes. Because I mean, now you work at a big company, you know, and that obviously come with the stress from your employers, deadlines, you meeting clients, white males, and whatnot. That is obviously going to contribute to your. I mean, the work that I do, I mean, it's tied to huge sums of money. You know what I mean? That I'm not going to disclose.
How much?
Do you know what? I saw a meme that said, if you work in finance, no mistake is ever that big. You're not saving lives, you're just saving PDFs. Maybe that's something you need to remind yourself.
But I mean, with OC's in health, you know? So
that's a different story.
His
one mistake.
His savings life, because if he does a bad, misdiagnose someone.
A bad decision.
Yeah, and then they give him the guy when I started Panado instead of Imebulen, you know, that's a simple example, but you can dive deeper, you know. Then Umutu ends up taking a Panado, they get addicted to a Panado because when you said they must take a Panado, instead they're supposed to take Imebulen, you know.
Yeah. So, do you want to go or should I go?
You can go.
So I think. In terms of, I mean, it depends, I think, because we spoke about mental health, right? Mental health is an overall state of being. Mental illnesses, there are, I think, like we spoke yesterday about the things that are as a result of the chemical imbalances. It doesn't care if you're poor or you're rich, middle class or higher class, you have those chemical imbalances and you require assistance and medication to regulate you. So
I think, sorry to interject, my view is that the source is different.
Okay.
What is
like a source of your stress is different because now you're dealing with bosses that are demanding. And stress because they don't know, they have a kid at home, they don't know what they're gonna eat or whatever. I think the sources can be different, but
the manifestations
could be the same.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Is it?
Why?
That's why I'm trying to make this point, right?
Yeah.
So if that's what you're talking about, those mental illnesses, ADHD and whatnot. Then I think if it's going to affect a kid on a 4 rich or a kid on a 4 who's poor, it's going to affect them regardless. Yeah. The management they get will be different because this one will be identified quicker and they'll have to be sent for OT, for speech and for those things that they'll be managed and they will recover.
Yeah.
Their upbringing will change. But in terms of the mental health, like your stressors, your mental clarity, your productiveness and whatnot, I do think perhaps being in so you're saying in corporate, we both middle class, but you in corporate, I'm in health. Your stresses are very different from mine. I work for the government. You work for a corporate for a private company. Yeah, for a corporate company. I don't feel like, for example, if I don't punch in at 7 o'clock, you know, there's not going to be a white man coming to me saying, "Hey, you are right?" I have different stresses, and I can be emphasizing saying I have patience, I have this, I have that. I think the cultures in middle class. So, for example, I have a healthy way of dealing with the stress. I clock in, I do my work, I clock out at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm done. Okay. When I clock out, I'm coming to do a podcast. I'm chilling, and we're relaxing.
You're not touching work at all.
100%. So. Yes, I'm in middle class. Yes, I have stresses, but I'm able to manage those coming out of work.
Yeah.
maybe you in corporate, you don't clock out. You guys clock in, clock out theoretically, but even after
the laptop is still open.
On our life and whatnot, because you're still trying to chase the bag. I think then you are predisposed to having, because those are then unhealthy ways of coping with the stress.
Yeah.
You don't have time to rest. What's going to end up happening? Firstly, you won't have clarity of mind. You'll be very tired. You will end up getting burnt out a lot quicker than I do.
Yeah.
Right. Simply because you are on this constant chase to become better and to prove yourself. You get burnt out, which is maybe something that umuntu who is as Laline might not be exposed to in terms of burnout from umsebenzi, but they might get burnt out in taking care of the household.
Yeah.
But I think the manifestations will then be different, because when you're getting burnt out and when you get burnt out, you don't have time to rest. Maybe for them, they're like, I'm just tired. Umsebenzi is just a bit much. So I don't know what my point was. I forgot my point. I forgot my point.
I think we're saying the same thing, just differently.
Okay.
Is it? Yeah.
What are you saying right now?
Uguti, we don't experience life the same.
Sure.
Uzoba, they will have like different stresses, as you said, but when it comes to some of the struggles that we have mentally, we can have the same. So I can have depression because of umsebenzi wami and how demanding it is.
Yes.
But umuntu onganawo lo umsebenzi, umuntu oseyilalini is not gonna have a depression just because. But there's also stuff that they have to deal with.
Yes.
They have to take care of people. And they have to worry about things that I probably don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
And so they might also struggle in their own way. But it's just that the sources of struggle look completely different because you are in like different worlds.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question. Yes, okay. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Thanks for bringing it up.
Sure.
So do you think actually, coming to that, umuntu lalini who's like struggling, like for example, they don't have food for the next day, they have to like grind, and then us, ever sentient, living nice and soft. What? What are you saying?
Don't say we're living nice and soft.
I'm saying, I mean, if you have Wi-Fi watching on Netflix,
no, it's relative, right?
Relative.
Yeah,
We're
but
comparing it to someone who's
somewhere
else.
Yeah, I'm using that example. Do you not feel? I think maybe that's your question.
Okay.
Do you not then feel like us living this nice and soft life, we have a soft or a smaller threshold than umuntu says lalini? I think that's what I'm thinking. Because if we, for example, you get to a fridge and the milk carton, it has this much milk. It's not enough. You're crying. Oh my gosh, today, there was not enough milk in the fridge. Back at home, that would have been. That's not something to cry about.
Yeah.
They have to cry about the fact that, dude, we haven't had food in the last 7 days. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think maybe that's why I say it's not the same, in that we don't have enough mental... when you're in middle class, your mental strength somehow goes. I feel, I could be wrong, it like goes.
Don't you think it's because you exert it differently and so much? Because for some people, for you to be triggered by something very small, it might be that you have bigger triggers at work. Uguti, usebenza no Gloria from finance or whatever. And
Gloria,
every day,
Gloria,
like, what is this thing?
Gloria, when you see you,
it's on site.
and Gloria on 50 and when on 23.
Hey, Gloria.
And she's out to get you. And you're just like, ma'am.
How tall is Gloria?
I think I'll see her.
Yeah.
But I think, so Utoluguti, when you go to work, you exert yourself so much mentally because you have all these, I don't know how to put it, but like you have abantu that you need to deal with. And on top of having to deal with something that you can see, I don't know the word for it, but like on top of having to deal with them ops that you can see and identify, you also have your own like internal struggles. We spoke about imposter syndrome. So you have to deal with this person who's always coming for you. You're always dealing with people who question your competence, and you also need to be like, oh my gosh, I also need to believe that I am competent. So there's so much going on although it's not necessarily physical all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that by the time you get home, you're like, oh my gosh, let me have a nice cup of coffee, and you're like, oh, alukubizai,
Then you just,
I'm done. I think
and maybe that was your tipping point.
yeah. So I think maybe it's how you have to exert yourself so much. So for instance, umuntu ongasebenzi uyazi ukuthi I don't have a job. I need to go around in farmer service. They know ukuthi this is what I'm dealing with. It's easier to identify. But with us, you have all these things that you're dealing with, that umuntu might look at you getting angry just because umuntu, while you were driving, cut a line in front of you or whatever. And they're like, you're so weak. But you're like, it's not that. It's I have all these other things that I need to. And also, when you are the first at something, you are the first one in your family.
First generation success,
No, but outside of that, you are the first one in your family to, become successful, and you are even the one of the few at work, or you are the only black person. M17. There's a point I'm trying to make.
Sure,
but I don't. I'm trying to.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. That perhaps the battles that we face aren't the same. They're not identical. But the magnitude they might be of the same magnitude. And I mean, for Omnyumdu, like I said, when I think about it, when I thought about it, I was like, if we have all the basics, like we are living, someone said like we are living like kings. If you looked like 100 years back, like the way we're living, having KFC and pizza, and those are the meals that the kings used to have back then. You know, people like us would only dream of those meals. Perhaps not even of those meals, they'll dream of the leftovers to say, I just want to be a servant there just so that I can have a piece of chicken, And we have now access to all of those things and even more, where we just choose what we want to eat when we want to eat it. If you want to go to M7 work is by Imoto 30 minutes away, but back then it probably would have taken a couple of hours to get there, because they have to walk. They had to carry people, the kings on their back. So that, I think when the reason I was saying that Gucci Bona, they probably have a lot, they're a bit stronger mentally because they're dealing with like real troubles, but perhaps it's a different level. We are now facing king and queen level of problems that probably they not exposed to yet. So it might not be identical, but the magnitude, fine.
And I saw this. I watch a lot of reality TV, and there's this other lady.
Mommy Club.
Yes, the ultimatum. And there's this other lady. They were gossiping about her house.
Oh.
They're like, yeah, your house, what got repossessed. And then she started going off. And what she said is something that I will always remember. Uguti, also when you make it out of a gas, people look up to you and people assume that you don't need help. And you also carry that responsibility to be a safe space for other people when you don't have a safe space yourself. And I think sometimes that's the struggle. Uguti, over and above the things that you're dealing with, you can't go home and be like, yeah, guys, imposter syndrome namhlanje, have you on chokehold. Because people are going to be like, depressed ganjani, unemoto. Like, make it make sense. But to depressed, make it make sense. So I think there's also that thing, you deal with this into that look different, but also now you are at a point where you don't have a safe space of your own. Like I was ukambiyoti, hey guys, like I don't know what I'm gonna cook. Like you would if ubuse lokshin, buze akumakhelwane, and then be like, aningihlanganisela guys.
Something, sure.
But now he's just like, who do I talk to? Because no one understands. There are people who go through those sorts of struggles.
That's it. But I like us then, do you feel like, I mean, I'll just put it like this. Do you feel like then in middle class is more depressed, or there's more people depressed and not speaking up about it, versus abantu like who's Eslalin or Rekasi or wherever then?
Again, I think...
Because I mean, we fear, right? So we fear coming out and having people to speak to.
Yes, and also you have to manage my perceptions.
Yeah.
Like you have to.
Yeah,
We have to go to Bukala, but me say Konino came young and it's one of your friends. I'm like, oh my gosh, how you doing?
Exactly. Yeah, but
I do. Yeah.
or
I think,
like, do you feel like there's more people who middle class dying on the inside because they need to keep this image of good? I know this is where I'm at. Even when we go back home, go December. You know, when you go back home, they always say, "I go lige manje selibuyile." You know what I mean? And then that's the image that they have of you. Ukuthi hayi makufika uSimpiwe phela igoli libuyile manje.
Funeka kubonakala.
Yebo, KFC every day to pizza every day.
ungena naye eminyaka KFC.
You see, you can't even
Ungena kwamele ubuso uyiphele.
So but then like you feel like sometimes you go home, you don't even have imali KFC.
Yeah.
But now you need to keep that standard. You could, hey, yazini phela akukwazi ukungena endlini ngilengisa izandla. I have to at least come with something. So you end up dying on the inside. You know, taking out some credit card. It's something we also want us to touch on, you know, just like the amount of loans for middle class versus the amount of loans on, like, let's say, I guess, then low class or...
Let's try and find the...
Oh, yeah.
It is what it is, man.
I mean, like...
It's not a nice word to use, but it's
like
reality.
I'm trying to...
People of low socioeconomic standing.
Yeah, we can use that term. So that's another point that then I want us to like go to. I mean, like, because now obviously you have this image that you want to keep up with.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like us in this group we suffer more from that, but you guys can obviously say.
Yeah. I think also I'm not answering the question, but maybe to add to it, Uguti, it's not only ukuthi abantu bazothini.
Yeah.
It's also going back to the expectations that you had of yourself.
Yeah.
When I said I wanted to become a CA, I said about 25, I'm gonna be a multi-millionaire. I said
okay.
So sometimes if you don't have the right kind of information, you have those expectations.
Yeah, those are the same expectations I had.
Uguti, by the time you qualify, kuzobonakala ngam, guys. I'm gonna buy my gym car. So I think.
Though besides,
yeah, I think any uguti. So when you do reach that point, you struggle to reconcile your reality and your expectations.
Then you crash.
And that's how people end up getting into debt, because you're like, I've been working towards this thing for 7 years. When do I get to enjoy it? When do I get to live a comfortable life? When do I get to drive immortal of my dreams? I think sometimes that's what leads people into making bad financial decisions or getting into a lot of debt.
What are you thinking?
I'm trying to...
You're just going to check the time before your phone does weird things again.
Let me go check. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah, we're going to check what's the thing now. Okay.
Let's still record.
Like 1 hour 23 now.
Oh.
Easy.
32.
Yeah. Okay.
So, this is 32.
Is it 32?
Hey,
I'm getting old.
In finance, that's dangerous. if you see 32 as 23, it's a problem. Do I think that? I don't know, man. I don't know, because I mean the pressures are different. And by different, I'll use 2 examples. For example, umdu who is a kasi trying to break out. The pressure is for them to break out, you know, and they are up against. It might not be. In the Guti, the friends are gonna come. It's just a thing of that peers conversations we had. Also, I'm getting to 25 now, and I'm not where I should be as a 25-year-old. I'm getting to 30 now, and I'm not where I should be. Whereas Usimpiwe Egoli, he's pushing numbers. He's pushing the Porsche Panamera, and now it gets to you. And so the pressure is hectic, and it can be quite intense in terms of it can be debilitating. I think that's a word where. Now you don't know what to do. You're not functioning, because every time you think, mama can't see me a kitchen in Gila because but you don't even contribute to groceries. It's not a nice thing to have, you know. Either as a lady or as a man. I'll speak from a man's perspective to say, if I'm 40 and I'm at the crib and I'm unemployed, I can understand the
It's gonna
eyes.
hit you,
People
yeah.
are looking at you,
Gonna
and
hit
just
you.
because you're not a goalie, there's expectations that come with
Yeah.
you. Now you have a younger sibling, or you have a nephew who is a goalie doing big things. It doesn't reflect well on
gonna
you.
hit you,
Their
yeah.
success, in some shape or form, is almost insulting to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now you look at them and you
Hey.
say, yes, how is he getting a car this
Yeah.
early? Yes, why is he getting a place, a sentence? So I think there's that pressure that they encounter and they face and they have to deal with. I do, on the other side, feel like what you were mentioning about the pressures then that we have, Tina, in the middle class, where you struggle to reconcile the fact that the life you imagine for yourself is not turning out to be that life.
Yeah.
Or the life that you want to live, right? Or that you're living doesn't match the one of your peers. And so we are quick to try to maintain and keep up with the appearances by getting into debt.
Yeah.
To try. So that if it was here Cape Town next week, the four of us decide here Cape Town, three of them in the group are quickly say, yes, let's go. I can't be the only one who says, but
then
Angwazi. And if I do it the first time and people say, okay, fine, we can postpone, and then it happens the second time, at some point I'm going to feel like I can't be this guy holding the crew back. So let me actually just get a credit card. I'll pay it back within the next 10 months or something.
Yeah.
In the next 10 months, things don't work out like that. So I feel like the trap to get into debt for us, the motivation is just different in that. It's to keep up appearances, to try reconcile with I'm a CA, but I'm not living the life I should as a CA because of all these expenses. Let me add on by taking credit. I can't be wearing islangu that is torn if I'm in health. You know? People look. I wear scrubs and I'm wearing something with ponzi that is open. People are looking and people expect you to live a certain way. You know, you are in health, driving it has. Why are you driving it has? Then you want to get something that is way above your means, which is how we end up living way above our means. So I think the motivation, who is like low socioeconomic background, the reason to take a loan is to take their kids to school, is to make sure they have a roof over their head, is to buy food because so I have to buy food in order for the kids to eat. You know, and I mean we know the numbers of abantu who in low socioeconomic background and the number of kids they have. It's intense, you know. And I mean it's intense, as in they could probably have 10 kids or whatever. So keeping up with 10 kids is not easy, you know. And so I think the motivation to get into debt is different. And some might actually argue that for Tina, we are the ones who invited because it's unnecessary for you to be in circles that force you
to take it
for a trip to Cape Town to maintain image.
I was gonna say, Guti, I think to some extent you have the responsibility to remove anything that you don't need. That triggers you to make the wrong decisions. If I have friends who like going out, I can communicate with them with our guys. I can't. You need to tell me in advance because I need to try and move things around and see if I can afford to. And if labo bangani you are you're not aligned because you feel like you're holding them back because bona they can afford to wake up and make big money decisions, then perhaps you are not hanging around the right people. But also I think it's always interesting to learn from abantu who have money for real. Not only their lifestyle, like in terms of going on holidays and doing this and that, but also how disciplined they are. And for me personally, when I observed that, I said they are where they are partly because of the discipline. Might have come from Mama Trust Funds but also you see how disciplined they are. I remember shortly before I started working, and I was looking, okay, cool. If I have to buy a car, which car am I gonna buy? And I was like, CAs can be so disappointing because you look at their cars and it's like these entry level cars, and I never used to understand it. And you're like, no, people do it because they want to get out of debt. Like my colleagues will tell me, no, I've been driving this car for 10 years. And they also have peers to keep up with, but it's just a matter of learning to be disciplined. So when you look at abantu who live the life that you want to live, also maybe look at the discipline that comes with that. Or if you don't have, I guess, the right people, find ways to like get informed, to read about lezinto. And it's super important to learn the basics of money and understand that you're supposed to have a relationship with it. I learned something, like back in the day, there's something called money personality that we all have. You first need to establish that. Are you a spender? Are you an investor? Are you a saver?
That's your
how
money
do you
personality,
and when you understand that, then when I'm looking for tips, I'm looking for tips for umuntu who's a spender. Because I have a problem. Same time. So when you're looking for advice, when you're reading books that speak to you as a person. Are you an investor? I've spoken to people who are like, dude, I just want to take my money and like try and grow it as much as possible. Put it away. I don't want to. That is also not healthy. Although it sounds nice. No, you're putting your money away. It's also not the perfect way to handle your money, because you also need to live. So that you don't get burnt out. As much as you want to invest and do this and do that, you also need to reward yourself at times. So just firstly, coming to terms with Tuguti, there's something called, I have a personality when it comes to managing my money, and I need to find, or I need to keep myself in spaces that don't trigger the negative thing that I don't want. So if I'm a spender, I can't be with friends who are always buying new cars. And I can't always be thinking that I'm going to try and keep up with those people. I need to find people who are like-minded. It can't be one person if you don't want to lose your whole squad. But who's going to be like, okay, cool, this is what we're doing. This is how we can grow our money. Yeah.
Which one are you?
I'm a spender, man. Hey, making it rain.
Making it rain. No.
I think I'm a saver.
You think?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I didn't know about money personalities. Maybe I need to go sit down and think and have a discussion. I was just thinking about like the trickiness of like when you say Guti, sometimes you have to cut off the things that you don't need. And I'm just sitting thinking, yes. It's such a, because for a lot of people, the people say, hey, you're living above your means, just lose that thing. And to be quite honest, it's a tough thing, because it sucks.
To do, man.
And for you to do that, you will suck for a bit. You will suck in the eyes of your friends. You will suck in the eyes of your family. You will suck in the eyes of the people from back home, because hey, and I think, honestly, we need to give credit to the people. To the people that can do it, because it's a very hard decision to buy a car and then 2 years later decide I actually can't afford this. Let me let it go. And now Mangwele takes in. It's not a nice experience. Downgrading, saying, okay, I'm living in this place. I can't afford this place. I need to let it go. Let me, I'm downgrading. And people, I think for a lot of times, we really talk about it like it's an easy thing. If you can't afford, just downgrade,
that,
and
there's
also
psychology in it.
The psychology is intense, and I understand it also, like you're saying, sometimes learning from the rich, for you to learn from the rich people, you have to be in the circles of the rich people, which means you have to live a certain lifestyle that allows you the opportunity to be around rich people, which means you have to live outside of your means. And very quickly, if you end up in those circles, they can become addictive themselves. Those circles become addictive. That lifestyle become addictive, and you can't break out, because Usimpiwe, I know. He's got this thing and he gives me access to A, B, C, and D. So I can't let go of this car, because the moment I let go of this car, then Usimpiwe also is
look
gone.
at me,
But I think it also just speaks on our ability to build relationships based on truth, I guess. And with people where you are open. Because you find that sometimes your preconceptions of umdu who's rich, you think you have to be rich in order to be around them. Whereas you just need to be you. And they just want someone, for example, who's a good listener, or someone who is a good person. Just a good individual. And you don't have to drive the fanciest cars. And if you were to open up to them to say, hey, dude, I'm actually struggling here, they'll say, yeah, dude, it's fine. Lose the car. I actually lost the car and the house and this is how I've come to be who I am right now. So I think if now we open up those honest conversations about what a CA should look like, what a Kim a chemical engineer or a BI analyst should look like, what a physiotherapist should look like. You know, I don't know if I had this discussion with you to say, 5 years ago, a physio lived very different. To how they should right now.
Now they are. Yeah.
I'm saying the car that you were able to afford then, not the car that you're gonna have to afford now, based on the market and how everything has changed. So if you look at Usipila and say, I want my entry level car to be that car, you're setting yourself up for failure. You know, I want my my ideal apartment or place to be in this place because of then you're setting yourself up for failure. Even for us, for me specifically, you know, I'm like, I started living there 5 years ago. Now I'm like, yes. Should I still be living here? You know, should I still be living here? And I think we're not having enough open financial conversations. Partly because we don't want to disclose our incomes and we don't want to look like the losers.
But sometimes you have to pay that. I think that's the cost of learning. Because
be a loser.
What day is it today? Thursday. On Thursday, I was sitting with a colleague of mine. We're having breakfast. And I think it goes back to, or maybe the first thing I want to say is, if you then transition from being previously disadvantaged, one of the privileges that you get is the access to people who live a different life from Eyako. So I was having a discussion with a colleague, and then it's like, he's telling me about his anniversary and that he went to Mauritius. I'm like, oh, that's very nice. And then we somehow ended up talking about money. And then he tells me, Uguti, you know, this is how much I was earning when I was on your level. And then I was like, oh, crazy. Like, that's quite interesting. And then he says, yeah, my first car as a qualified TA was a Mercedes. And I'm like, okay, because obviously I don't drive a Merc. But so, and then we ended up having a discussion, and then he was like, going back to a point of Shoguti, umuntu who earned the same amount that I'm earning right now could afford a Merc.
Back then,
Merc. And he was like, it was even brand new. I'm like, like, so I think sometimes you need to pay that price. Yoguti, I'm gonna come across as that person just to learn. Like, and you don't have to come and be like, yeah, no, this is how much but like just having a generic or general conversation to say, I'm a CA or I'm a CA trainee, and this is how much CA trainees make in general. How was life for you? For me, that's the privilege I've seen that comes with being in the spaces that I'm in now. And I try to milk it as much as possible to say, I have these people now, and I'm not going to go out for drinks with them because I can't always have money. I can't even afford to go to the restaurants they go to because these people are moneyed. Let's go for drinks. They will say, hey, and you're like, So if you see that you can't always like go out with them, sometimes it's something as small as like coming in early. Just so you can have breakfast with them. Or if you see that they like having coffee at this time, you're like, okay, cool, I'll also have coffee. Or sometimes when they're walking down, like when they're going, you're like, yeah, no, you're going to get this. Okay, can I walk with you? And then that's how you learn. So I think it's very important to be honest, as you said, and have like those honest conversations. And if you feel like you're going to be too exposed, you don't have to go around telling people your issues. You can generalize and say, I am this. I am a black girl. I don't have to tell you my struggles, but as a black girl, this is what usually happens. How do you see life from your perspective? And then sometimes you learn through that and you become more and more comfortable with sharing and asking questions.
I'm thinking, right, about like, because I mean, now we're chatting about us and placing ourselves in like groups and whatnot. Like, I mean, because we coming from like disadvantaged backgrounds and now we middle class, ne? Like, what about our friends that didn't make it to where we at, right? So the friends that from high school, I had friends, they still in that environment. What do I do to them? Do I like drop them off?
No.
Because I mean, now we're not talking the same language, you know?
No.
What's happening? And I mean, like, what? Because you see now, so now you end up, and I mean, I think that's why a lot of people in the middle class struggle so much. because you're actually stuck between those two worlds where you hear, I mean, you're in the middle.
Yeah, big bro and little bro at the same time.
You know, you want to live this life of people like your high people there, but you also still want to make sure that you don't leave because you were from here. So, right? So you still also understand.
Yeah. So I'll say this, man. I'll say this. I know people always say drop them and live in your life because they drag you down.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to generalize. I think for me, I'll speak for myself to say it just.
You still have those friends?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think it just depends on the nature of the friendship.
Yeah.
You know, and what the friendship is built on. There's always if your friendship was always built on how much you had or what the person can do for you monetary wise, like financially, then maybe that's why the friendship won't work out. Or if in terms of mindset, you find that the person is stuck in a different mindset, it can be quite different because then you become unrelatable at some point. For example, the things you speak about right now, someone looks at us and says, you guys know jack shit because of course you're going to talk like that because you are sitting nicely in that couch. But you don't know what we go through. So there are those situations.
So you drop them?
No, I'm saying there are those situations and I can understand where the conflict might take place. For me personally, I don't see the need to. I have not had issues where I mean, other friendships just over time naturally, you know, you distance, you know, picks up. But I found that with my friendships and the things that they were based on, money wasn't necessarily there. Motivating each other and helping each other out 100%, and it doesn't have to be monetary helping each other out. I don't even have money as a big part in terms of my relationships and my friends, you know, like the exchange of cash will happen when it's necessary, but it's not I'm going to give you this, okay, you give me that, okay. When we go out as a transaction, something I experienced when I got to Joburg was how transactional relationships were. If you're Dibana, there has to be a bill to be paid. When we meet up, how many times have we paid a bill? Not a lot of times.
We just chill.
We will go to MOA to have a bill from here, you know, but most times when we're hanging out, there isn't really money there.
Just chilling.
Same thing from my friends back home is that money was never really a thing for us. You know, it's more how can we be there for each other as brothers? How can we grow each other? And if we can still have that relationship and maintain that level of relation, then I don't see the need for us to drop it. But I think when it becomes now a thing where your friends have the victim mindset where they expect you to save them from that life, then it can be quite heavy because the harder you try to save them and you fail, they might not see that you're trying hard enough. For example, I'm in Joburg, and I've been seen in studio. I am recording a podcast. I work, you know, in the medical field. So someone back home who is a rapper is gonna look at me and say, "Daughter, you're in Joburg. You worked with ABC and D. I saw a picture of you with this person. Put me on." And I say, "I tried, but I can't just give them a CD. Even me, I can't just. I've been in studio with some artists. I can't just pull out. I can't just say, "Exe, Bambale CD," because that breaks a relationship. Understand? I'm trying to build a life for myself as well. And if they don't understand those things, then those are terms or grounds to break the relationship. But on the basis of what you back home, I'm in Josie. Peace. I mean, life will humble you. When it humbles you, those people will be waiting to catch you there.
And Gobushuguti, one thing I realized also is that a lot of relationships turn out to be very transactional. So you do need something genuine. Like you need someone who knows you
from the ground.
I also have friends still that I grew up with, and whenever I'm home, and then I'm like, "Hi guys, nice to see you, but I also need to see so and so," because those are the people like I talk to when I need to like ground myself. People who know me from like back in the day. People who even sometimes remind me of how capable I am. There's a friend of mine who will always say to me, "You can't do that because when you've achieved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5." Like she speaks more about my achievements. And that is someone who hasn't achieved the same stuff as me. So I don't believe in Uguti. Now you must just end relationships or friendships based on that. And I believe, and this doesn't have to do with achievements or whatsoever, but like I put my friends in like different compartments. There's friends of mine that I can talk to about this, and I know Guti. So if it's a friend of mine that is from back home, I can't be talking about corporates, and sometimes that's what ruins the relationship.
Yeah.
You just need to have that wisdom. Yoguti. If Nosbanban will talk about our memories, we'll have fun.
Yeah.
But also for me to preserve the relationship, I shouldn't be talking about circling back, managing expectations. They don't know that.
Yeah, read the room. Because even for me, my dog, even if we here, not even back home, if you hear me busy telling me about circling, what to me, I don't speak that language.
It's like, hey.
I'm leaving you.
Yeah.
I'm leaving you. When do you believe? Because I don't even know if I'm ready for your response. What do you believe?
Nah, man, I don't do that, man.
Are you sure?
Do you still have friends from back home?
Yeah. Nah, I do. I know, like, I think I'm same with Unati, man, where it's like, I feel like I always go back home and chill with the homies. Like, we just pry, and then we just catch up about life. Some are getting married, some have kids now. And I mean, there's so much learning I can get from them. I don't have a kid, I'm not married. So there's still so much value kuma relationships outside money, And I mean, for me, I also have so much to offer to them, to say, oh, listen, Don, let's do this. Some of my homies back home, I've been telling, hey, listen, it's like goal, So things like that, we chat about them, like, oh, actually, Umfethu is onto something, And so the Namachis are now slowly coming this side. And I mean, obviously, like, we're all doing various things. But going back home, all of us go back home, and it's like, mfethu sigrand, much. We go out for a braai, we chat. Sigrand, shosho, nkosikazi umnandi. Yeah. So I think like that, because I think issues obviously comes when you feel like both parties don't have anything to offer. And not money-wise. There's nothing common. I mean, forget about. I mean, even if there's nothing common, like your relationship can still be good. Okay, mfethu. We are friends, and we have so much going on in empilweni zethu. Like, we have different experiences, and that is what makes us friends. The fact that when I come to you, I'll speak about, hey, there's a home loan I'm paying. When you told me what you're buying diapers, in as much as those are two big responsibilities, and we can actually relate at that level. These are big responsibilities, but they're different responsibilities, and then we relate at that level. It's, no, but listen, actually, so
correct. I'm glad. I was worried. I was worried there for a second, but I think, I think that's a big mistake that people make, where really it's just about cut them off, and life in, if you base everything around Imali, you quickly learn how surface level your life is, because like you're saying, your Indwana are married and they have kids, and they will teach you lessons, like bigger lessons than you would have ever learned having all this money and paying off the car loan. But yeah, it's a look. I think we can go on and we'll keep opening up different topics. But I do appreciate, in closing, I do appreciate you're looking. We're going to 2 hours.
Is it?
Yeah, this is gonna probably the second longest. If it goes on for long, it'll be the longest episode in the podcast. Got it. But I do appreciate you coming through and just having the conversation. I really thought you were gonna be nervous on camera.
Why?
But I don't know. It's just people. The moment the lights come on and the camera's there and the mic is on your hand. They lose their mind. But I do appreciate it. It's been really good. You've got different perspectives. Appreciate you, my G, as always.
I will.
And do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah. Maybe you guys can go first and then I'll.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think for me, what is it? Yeah, I mean, I think just like everyone, it's a marathon, man. It's a marathon. And I mean, I feel like we might be where we're at now, and people might think, I mean, we are running different races, and everyone is running their own marathon. So it's not necessarily a marathon where we're all running one marathon, So everyone has their own different marathon and milestones in life and whatnot. And for some people, it might just be Uguti. And I mean, I think it's also important to like understand what is it, middle class is, because some people might live a life they're living and not be middle class and still be okay. You know, still have the money and the whatnot. So I think the definitions are very important in that regard. I mean, obviously growing up, the goal is to be like the middle class or above or whatnot. But
to be rich.
Yeah, it's to be rich, you know, but it's like, okay, what is to be rich? What is the middle class and whatnot? But I think just for me, in closing, we are all like running our own marathons. Yeah. So we're not all in the same race like these cars. Everyone is doing their own race. Some are doing 2 kilometers. Some are doing 90 Ks. You know, it might take long. I think you did an example with your sister, right? Where both of you guys are like CAs, you know, but you went about it differently. You know what I mean? So I think it speaks to that, to say in life, I think what's very important is to just nurture the relationships we have, regardless the money, regardless the possessions and the whatnot, but just nurturing the relationships and ensuring that everyone is happy and just growing. So yeah, I think that's also obviously the purpose of the podcast, just growth. You know, so yeah.
On my side, I will repeat this quote that really changed my life. No, man, but like to say that no one is crazy. Whatever decisions you make because of where you come from. Whatever decisions the people around you make, they do because of where they come from. So be kinder to yourself when you make mistakes and you feel like you're not making as much progress. Just know that the fact that stresses you out means that you want to make a lot of progress, whether it be financially or professionally. So just be kinder to yourself. And also just make time to be happy. Oh my gosh, life is so stressful.
Yep.
Make time to be happy. Take care of yourself.
Those bottomless mimosas, man. Come on now.
And sometimes it's not even, you don't even have to spend money. But like, just make time for yourself. Take care of yourself, because if you don't, no one else will.
No, I appreciate you guys. And yeah, that is today's episode. We'll check you again in the next episode. I think now you're officially 20 episodes in. If all three of them work out, we are now 20 episodes in. Yeah, peace.
Oh, my boy.